Hey guys.
Vanille. Hey, hey. Boy, Vanille, long time no talk. I know
So,
you missed me
yeah,
this last hour.
I think you had some questions regarding the Istio wet implementation.
Uh,
So, let,
yeah. Please, that absolutely needs to be a topic.
if nothing is going on, then yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Do- Oh, very good. Pranav. There he is. Boy, I tell you what, between Pratik
Yeah,
and Pranav, we get one of the two of you guys. It's good.
yeah. Pratik actually has an interview today, so he's not in Austin.
Ooh,
So yeah, it's just me.
nice. Okay. I'm gonna have to harass him about that. That's great. Uh,
We thought he's doing his PhD. What does this interview mean? It's like, oh my god.
It's like a summer internship.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll be just messing with you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, we need to update on GSOC. That needs to be it. Okay. Okay, we are 3 minutes after. Why don't we go ahead and get started here? So we've got Vanil, Pranav, Garish, Lee. Very good. Just as a reminder, well, we record each of the community meetings, so we'll publish these to the YouTube channel soon. And very good. All right, so Pranav and Vanil is here. Vanil, you're gonna have to do me the favor of spelling out the rest of your last name. Okay, very good, guys. Just a quick recap. I think we talked about this last week. Um, the schedule for upcoming project demos has shifted slightly. I'd love to have each and all of you there, both to speak to questions that people may ask, speak to contributions that you've made, to be part of the part of the public face of the project. That would be great. So we are slated for a presentation at the CNCF networking working group. As soon as I get a moment, I'll put in a link to that, to the extent that, and some details about the meeting day and time. In case you show up, I'll be sure to call you out, calling you. I think actually the order is reversed now. So I think we've got the UX working group coming up in for Istio, the networking working group in the CNCF, and then a presentation at Container World on the 18th. All right, an update on the Google Summer of Code. So Layer 5 as as an open source organization, we ended up applying to be recognized as a Google Summer of Code organization and put in that application. This year we didn't make it, or our application wasn't accepted. The same projects that we had described for stewardship under the Layer 5 organization, Vanil is actually intimately familiar with the description of basically those same projects being described under the CNCF for both the Envoy and Linkerd CNCF projects. And the CNCF is a Google Summer of Code organization. My hope is that through the CNCF we will have a few interns submitting applications to help contribute, really probably toward Meshery and some of the other things that it needs to do. And through that, hopefully, we're helping very directly with the adoption of Envoy, with the adoption of Istio, or Linkerd. Um, so that's just kind of a status update. I'll try to take some notes here as we go. Not accepted. Okay. We've got a couple of no new members to identify today. I think we do have a couple of topics to chat through. Pranav, if you have topics, and just if for nothing else, just a status update, we're gonna put you on the agenda and hear from you. In advance of that, actually, Vanilla, probably your efforts are first at bat. So, do you want to give a quick recap of the issue that you're trying to overcome and the feature you're trying to create?
Yeah, of course. So let me quickly share my screen.
Please.
Are you able to?
Oh, yep, there we are.
Okay. So the feature I was working on this week was to integrate Istio-Vet with our Meshery Istio project. So the idea is like when you run Istio-Vet on your Kubernetes cluster that has Istio installed, and you have like certain configurations for your services with Istio. And if there are any errors, then exactly yeah. So I created this PR to integrate this project. So at a high level, you just apply this Istio configuration, and then you just peep into the pod logs, and it should tell you it should print out warnings like something like this. That's the idea. And if we look into the Istio YAML, so you see that there's this container called Istio-Vet, which is run as a job, and it identifies issues with your deployment, and then it prints out the logs, and then it goes away. So that's the basic idea of this Istio-Vet project. So the way I integrated this was I actually created a separate operation. So it's right here. So basically we have Istio-Vet template which is run on calling this operation, and I've added two extra variables, one for returning logs and the app label. So the need for adding these variables is basically I want to identify the pod that is running um, the Istio-Vet command, and also I need to return logs for this command. So that's why I needed these. And this part is fetching the logs from the pod given the namespace and the app label. So if you see here, so when you execute a particular operation, you would see that this particular operation needs the log to be returned back to the UI logs from Kubernetes using the application label and namespace, and the logs are returned as error. So ideally, if the Istio-Vet command ran successfully, I think there would be no errors returned. So you would have an empty error, which means it was success. And if there are warnings like I showed earlier, you would see something like this in the error field. And yeah, this is the actual Istio-Vet YAML, the namespace with the template parameter. And this part is to actually create a client set based on the Kubernetes configuration. And this is required for fetching logs from the pod. I don't think there's a way to do this using the dynamic client, but I'm not sure. Like, if there is, then I can upgrade this PR. Yeah, that's the idea. So in the UI, I think, let's see. So in the original issue, we had the screenshot where we're identifying like certain problems with the YAML configuration, but Again, I think this has to be done after the YAML is installed in the Kubernetes cluster. So it's going to be like multi-step. So first you install your YAML configuration onto the cluster, and then you identify if there are any issues with the deployment. Any questions so far?
Oh, this is great. This is perfect. It's kind of ideal how you've one delivered it so quickly, and two kept a nice clean separation from vet as a dependency of Meshery. By simply facilitating the deployment of vet into same the same container runtime, whether that's the cluster or locally. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that Meshery is running. That's great. The when you step back and think about it, particularly kind of in reflection of like how it was being considered within the Istio TOC call, and a little bit of how the issue is described. It's not obvious, but there's two use cases I think that are helpful to have here and are good for users trying to troubleshoot either running workloads, running services on their mesh, or in advance of them having deployed the workloads. In this case, I think in the way in which you've captured it is, for workloads that have been deployed to the mesh, to Istio mesh specifically, you'll get logs back. Detailing the various output of the vetters.
Right.
That's awesome. What we might want to do is, as we work through that PR to close out this issue, is maybe we would change the wording of this issue to be after. I think the wording of the issue is like, hey, do a vetting before you deploy, and they're both valid use cases. It's
Right.
so that's one thing. So maybe we just change the language and are able to land this PR as a post deployment vetter, and then open up a different issue for the before validation. The third thing that that now that you've done this fantastic work, we'll need to go and probably create a second issue that would track how to expose those logs in the UI.
Right.
And that's just something we would have to do. We would have to do anyway, right? And so I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember if last time we did the demo last week, if everyone got to see a small. I think you can expose it, or obviously you can expose those vet logs in different ways. I don't know if last week
Right.
everyone saw the notion that there was a small like toaster notification. It's a little transient notification that would come in and have a little message dialogue, and then it sort of goes away. That's one way of exposing these. Another one might be that these aren't necessarily, some of these, the responses that you would get from a vetter aren't necessarily transient. Like, hey, those are long-lived config issues that you've got going on for the services that you're running in the mesh, and they're more like an alarm, if you will, like something that kind of an open issue that you might expect that there's a section in the UI that you could go to that just like a little alarm bell that might have a count on top of it that would tell you you've got two outstanding vetter issues. So
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. So I mean, we have the API for the supported commands. We identify and run supported commands. I think we can leverage the same thing to do this. So basically, the UI would probably run istio as soon as a deployment takes place. It could like asynchronously populate the alarm bell with whatever logs you get from istio. But I think we need to like, do some kind of parsing of the logs itself to give a more structured output than to print out like the entire log.
Yeah, where do you and Garish? I know you've got some comments here as well, but where do you guys consider that we would want to do that parsing? Not in. I'm assuming it would either be in the Meshery Istio adapter or in Meshery itself, the back end, not the
So
front.
I would actually parse the logs in the Meshery Istio project itself. Uh, but again, like, I think the API right now is like it has a single error field which is a string type. So maybe we need to play around with that to support like more structured errors. Or if that doesn't work out, then maybe we can do the parsing on the Meshery project itself.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, actually, what Vinil said is right. So I think it'll be ideal to actually keep it in the
Ooh,
your project. So that way, if you look at like the way we have our code structure now is like Mesher itself, it does not have any in it. Like I mean, it used to be, but like now once we have this adapter logic moved out, Mesher itself, it only has it only has the client to talk to RPC gRPC servers like which can do the mesh work. So Meshery itself does not have even I don't think it even has a single reference to the word Istio, for example. So now this is more specific to Istio adapter, I would say. So which means what Venel said is precise, like in a sense that we should have all the parsing logic, all the business logic for parsing that, and pretty printing it like in the Meshery Istio adapter. Venel, you're right. Like I mean, we sure can extend the protobuf and add an extra field like or maybe some other way of like kind of getting the logs from Istio. But like I mean, well, we can definitely like extend that and add support while we are also extending the user interface to actually do it. Absolutely. I mean, like what you're saying is right. But yeah, like, I mean, my point with Lee in the sense that like when we opened the bug, you're right. Like we were more in line with a pre-validation rather than a post-validation. So this was an interesting change for us. At least like when I first saw the PR yesterday, like I was a bit, that's interesting, definitely. So yeah, I mean, definitely, like I mean, this is something great. I did see a change, and I'm sorry, like I wasn't able to comment earlier. Now, with respect to dynamic client, sure, like I mean, what you have doesn't hurt. Maybe what we can probably do is like in the following week we can maybe spend a little time to see if we can do the same thing with dynamic client. But again, that's not a showstopper. I mean, like as long as the client is utilized for something specific, that's okay, I guess. Like I don't think it hurts. I mean, earlier, like if you remember my very initial version, I used to have two clients, one for config, one for network, for the SDO stuff. And then like when I figured out that now this is okay, but then now we're going to open up the window to let people play with Kubernetes like any way they want with the config file. That's not going to be feasible to actually have one for every type. And now what if your cluster has custom CRDs? And now that thing keeps going on, right? I mean, which was the reason why I had to look at dynamic client. So for
Right.
your use case, I don't think we need the dynamic client route, but I mean, if we could use the dynamic client, great. If not, it's okay, I guess. What you've done is great. So yeah, absolutely.
So, so like you said, I think I really wanted to use the dynamic land, but I'm not too familiar with that. So if
Gotcha.
there is a way to fetch logs with dynamic land, I'm like happy to replace the implementation. If you can provide me some pointers on how to do that.
Absolutely.
Other thing I wanted to mention was like, as you see here, like the error is a single string. Maybe we can keep a generic kind of error for this and like give more structured error response as a separate field here. That's one way we
Yeah,
could.
yeah, totally. Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah.
And what I wanted to mention one more thing. I just forgot. Anyway, if I remember, then I'll let you know. But yeah, and, I think
Awesome.
that's all about this. Oh yeah, one more which I wanted to say was about the Istio Red tool. So I'm not really sure if we can run this tool like before doing anything with the YAML configuration. So basically, if you run it as a Docker command, it takes the kubeconfig and it analyzes the uh, cluster, and then it like prints out the same log. And the same thing is being done in like the in cluster method. But I don't see a way to run this outside of the cluster. Like basically
Gotcha.
like take YAML and you analyze and print out logs prior to applying that to the cluster.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
So that's the reason I implemented as a post install operation basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna
Um,
stop sharing.
no, and then I guess Girish, as we, if you think about the user flow, and someone deploys Meshery, they bring up the UI, they sign in. One of the first potential questions that they'll be asked is to identify the location of their kube config, which I think we might be supporting how they would identify that in a couple different ways. I think right now in the UI it's probably by clicking to browse to that file, sort of assuming that they've deployed Meshery on their local machine. As you reflect on how Istio Vet has done it, how if you're deploying in a local Docker, they're just mapping, they're mapping to that local file, the local kube config file.
Right.
Um, um,
So the answer to that is that is how I used to have, like, in the sense when Meshery starts, like, it used to accept a kubeconfig file as a runtime argument, and I used to, like, for example, when I was running it in Docker, I would mount the file. But then now the reason why we're doing it the way we're doing it now is to kind of have a dynamic element. Like, so for example, like, Istio is sorry, the Istio web is more like a job, like a single run thing, while Meshery was not, which was the reason why, like, for example, like, if you have Meshery running, you could make it talk to one cluster, get some stuff done, and then if you wanted to, you can switch to a different cluster, redeploy Meshery or restart Meshery or anything, which is the reason why we have it this way. But if that is the case, like, we sure can go back. I mean, it's not a problem.
um, hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when Wendell was sharing his screen, like, I think I remember seeing that, the options they have are, like, it's either like a single run, like, where, you run Istio wet with a given kubeconfig file. But essentially what that does is it starts off with the kubeconfig file, runs, and then it dies. That's pretty much it. Like, so it's a CLI tool, which is, like, I think the right thing to do. Or it just runs as an on-demand job in cluster, where it actually just gets the service account, which is mounted into it, which is partly like in what we have in Meshery too, like, where if Meshery is running in a Kubernetes cluster, it does give you the option where you can select, like, to use the in cluster config, where in cluster, yeah, the service account essentially, so that you don't have to give it a config, and it'll just use the local cluster to talk to either make changes or get data, etc.
Okay,
So
so I guess
yeah,
so considering the deployment options that Meshery will have, it sounds like we wouldn't be using the um, well, if someone deploys Meshery locally to their local Docker environment, it sounds like we would potentially take the same approach that the Istio Vet project has done to identify where the kube config is, or would we not want to support that and just
and no, we don't have to. I mean, in the sense that now Meshery has a user interface, so people can choose the kubeconfig file in the user interface, and so that way, like, whether Meshery is running locally in a Docker container or on Kubernetes, or actually on a different Kubernetes cluster than the one people want Meshery to talk to, all these options are supported today. So, which is kind of the reason why, like, we did what we did.
okay.
So yeah.
Okay, and so how does okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think a demo of Meshery might actually make it clearer. Plus, we
Yeah.
will have some updates to the user interface. I know many people who were on the call last week, like, probably know the direction. But
Okay, maybe so. Then we'll put a pin in that until we do the do a demo. I get maybe coming back real quick to make sure that we're on the same page. As we were talking about parsing out the vetter logs, I think you guys were saying that that might make sense to be done within Meshery Istio.
That is correct. Yes.
And
And we will be updating our protobuf specification to actually include a field for a structured message. Which again, since I don't have some background knowledge there, me and Benel can actually work it out. But essentially, yes, we'll be updating the protobuf specification so that we can parse the logs from IstioWet and then like present it in a decent way. Plus, we can better utilize to maybe show notification just like what you guys were talking about. So it doesn't have to be a synchronous error message, but rather it could be something like that. Yeah.
okay, and so right now that I guess we're. Is it the case that for streaming the logs back, it's not necessarily the case that we need to override an existing field type, but rather add a new field and probably not have it of type string? What would that type?
Right.
What would that type
Yeah,
be?
that's correct. I think it's going to be a custom message type which would have like maybe a high level problem is about what exactly is wrong, like similar to the Istio wet output. So they have a high level summary of what's wrong and then details about the same issue.
Okay.
So maybe like a two field message will be the type of uh, uh, the new field in the apply rule response message.
Right.
So let me quickly share my screen again so we can discuss this.
Yeah.
Can you
There we go. Yeah.
as you see here, we have like summary and message. So we can have these two fields as a new message type and use that message type for our apply rule response. So if we get into oh, apply rule response with the string error type. Right? So maybe we can introduce a new message, maybe like a detailed error or something,
Nice.
and then have that as a second parameter within this message.
Very good. And you know why I was going to this detail was in mostly because I wanted us to confirm that this additional field, this additional entry into the protobuf for the Istio adapter, that it seems like that might make sense in other adapters as well. And that if we're doing any parsing of logs that are returned back to Meshery, that I guess if they're mesh specific, that makes sense to do them in the specific adapter. I was thinking maybe we would put that into Meshery itself, but yeah, to the extent it's mesh specific, then maybe not. Maybe it's just a standard convention that there is a new message type for transmitting logs back, but the parsing of them is mesh specific. Okay.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, nice. Very good. Okay. Just to help, so Pavan joined us as well. So fantastic. I didn't.
Hi everyone.
All right. Okay, I want to share the meeting minutes again real quick. Vanille, that's fantastic. I'm very excited about this. That's great. Just to recap. Well, actually, let's come back at the end of the call and recap after we do a Meshery demo, just because maybe it'll be easier to reflect on a couple of things. I guess on that, Girish, are you ready to talk about that now, or do we want to move down to Pavan's stuff? Pranav stuff, I mean.
Hey Lee, I'm sorry. What is your question?
Do you want to do a Meshery demo right now, or do we want to talk about Pranav stuff now?
It's up to you guys. Like, I mean, I probably need like 10 minutes, I would say, like, to demo. And I mean, 10 minutes is like a lot. Like, I'm just saying, like, with a buffer. So, if you guys want to talk about something else, like, please feel free to go ahead.
Okay, no, let's hit the demo.
Yeah, awesome. Right. Let's see. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Okay.
it's coming.
So, awesome. Can you guys see my screen? And,
Yeah, it's
black.
just bad
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
bad
Okay,
bandwidth.
so I'm going to start off. Yeah, I'm going to start off with Meshery SaaS. You guys know, like, I mean, people who have taken a look at the Meshery components, they probably know that there is a SaaS piece. Now, this last week, what we've done is we have actualized infrastructure, like on AWS, and we have a page for the Meshery SaaS, which is essentially a login page. There was nothing more than that for now. But that is actually at meshery.layer5.io. So if you guys want to take a look, like what we have done is, okay, I'm sorry, my browser is probably having some issues, but I think it was actually working from other browsers. Let me just confirm that. But essentially, what it is like we have actually taken the layer 5 layout and you establish the relationship between the two. Just give me 1 second. So I want to actually share my window and share screen. So okay, so if you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
You can see this is the HTTPS meshery.layer5.io, and it is essentially a page. So this page looks very much like the Meshery page on Layer 5.io, except that like there are two options, like to sign in with Twitter, GitHub. So if you directly go to this page and like try to sign in, it Layer 5.io's Meshery page, because that's kind of the default placeholder I have. Essentially, the way it works is like we start Meshery, we go to Meshery, it'll redirect us to Meshery SaaS. It'll get us authenticated with Twitter or GitHub, like whichever is our for choice, and then it'll bring the user back to the Meshery itself. So that's the reason for this Meshery SaaS. Plus, it has the components to talk to DynamoDB. Like so we have 3 Dynamo tables, one for users, one for results, and one for sessions. So essentially, that's the infrastructure. We already have that on AWS. So I'm kind of working on the part like where AWS API gateway is kind of giving me some trouble with some query parameters. I've just not had the time to actually like investigate that, like because we just got this functional like probably like 2 hours back. But most of my week was actually spent on Meshery. So this is one piece of my demo. Feel free to go and check this out. But the other one is going back to my local. So the Meshery instance is actually running on the local, and I also have a Meshery SaaS instance on the local, which where they're going to just talk to one another and work. So starting off 9081, you can see that it immediately redirected me to this page, which is the one I just showed. But this is actually my local version, not the SaaS version. Essentially, once I have the last pieces ironed out, there will be no need for running Meshery SaaS locally. So and then I'm going to be like signing in with Twitter. Once I sign in with Twitter, it's going to ask me to authorize. So once I'm authorized, it'll bring me back to the user interface. So we didn't have this last week in the sense I just had the skeleton last week. Plus, there were a lot of unknowns for me. So this week, like I pretty much like have all the functionalities working in the sense whatever used to work in Meshery, I have tried to bring them back in this new Meshery UI and get them all to work. The initial, I'll start from the left top, like so you can see 4 menu items here, and of course like the Meshery title. So if you go to a different page, and then if you click on the title, it will take you back to the first page, which is because that's the landing page. So that's the performance page. As you guys probably know it. The other page is actually the configure page. This is the page where we configure the Kubernetes stuff. And the third one is a play. Now, the way I have it configured is that if you cannot go to play without configuring a mesh essential. So if you click on play, it'll take you back to configure. The last one about is actually a hyperlink to the Meshery STO page, which is external. So if you can actually right click and click that, you will see that it actually takes us to the Meshery page on Layer 5 IO. So now and this logo is right to keep it because it's once we might have a better logo we can swap it out. So logout functionality here. So once a person logs in, you will see their avatar icon appear here, and then there is a logout which again logs you out, and you'll be taken back to the sign-in page. Yeah, so now with respect to this one here, I've tried to use now this entire application is a single page application built out of React, Redux, and Next.js. So it's a combination of all the three. They work really well. And I've tried to use the Redux store pretty well in the sense that across pages, the data will be persisted because again, pages are again, still part of the single page application. With respect to the load test, I'm not connected to the VPN. Just give me 1 second while I connect to the VPN. So it's at 10.199.75.64 80 product page. One of my clusters in my lab. So essentially, this is supposed to just bring the product page app. So I'm going to be using this for my load testing. So I'm going to go back to Meshery and then give the URL. I'll leave these two as it is, but you can see these are number fields. I think I've set a minimum to 0. Same thing here. I have all the validations in place. So if you guys are interested. And then now the chart is blank to start, and then here's the duration. So now once you hit submit, with the values, the countdown timer is. So I tried to find a decent one this time, rather than a simple digital one. So the way it works is this countdown timer runs, and once the countdown finishes, pretty much around the same time the test in the back end results come. Accounts earlier, they'll automatically close the timer, and the chart at the bottom of the page actually get loaded. So I'll just give it another 30 seconds before we actually move on to the next part of the demo, which is the configure page. So almost there. The last 10 seconds, the countdown will actually start showing the milliseconds. Again, that was not something which I did. I'm just using a library. The library was pretty decent, so it's pretty helpful. Fantastic. And you can see there. You can see the success message at the left bottom of the page, and the chart rendering the new data. Now, the part where the state is persisted across the pages is now if I go to configure and then if I come back to performance, you will see the URL, the values that were preloaded, and the result data were still persisted. So this was actually one of the interesting things. Now going on to the conf part, which we were talking about, so you can actually use the attached config. Where you specify a context name, which is optional, and then you upload a config and the mesh location. Or you can actually switch this on, in which case the first two fields will actually be disabled, and it'll only accept mesh adapter location. So, but for this demo now, since Meshery is running on my local, I have to give it a config. You just have to click on that field, and you'll be presented with an option to actually load the config, and the config is here. So now once the file is loaded, it'll actually show it in this field. And for the adapter location, it's again running on my local at localhost 10,000. So once I click submit, it essentially does the same exact thing earlier, where it'll actually send the data to the adapter. The adapter will try to connect to the mesh on the cluster, and if things work well, then it just comes back with a success message. You can see that at the bottom, you can see that Kubernetes config was successfully validated. Once that is done, you're taken to a page where it says mesh is configured. Of course, the messages can be updated. Um, now I have two options here. One is reconfigure or continue to play. Now that the mesh is configured, if you hit continue to this play page, you can also observe the left hyperlink is selected and the URL actually changed to play. Here, again, you have the option to click on reconfigure, which will take you back to the previous page. And you can actually choose a different config if you wanted to, but you can see the other fields values are actually persisted using the global state that I have configured Kubernetes. So I'm here in this screen where again all these data are actually coming from our adapter. The value for the namespace is pre-populated with default. Of course, people have the option to change it. And then you can choose whether it is a delete operation or add or update. And likewise, all the three are coming from all the three operations which are supported by the adapter are coming from the adapter. Likewise, the name of the adapter here. So it's like play with is the general one, but the adapter name is really coming from the adapter. If we select one thing, and then if you say, if you submit it, yeah, so the operation succeeded. Again, I'm using the same infrastructure for showing the success and error messages. Now, if I try to delete this, it's the same thing. Yeah, so you can see that there was an error because when I first hit it, the configurations, the object was deleted. And when I tried to re-delete it, it actually threw an error. So, the error message also gets shown at the bottom of the page. The other part, that was added is this custom capability. This is totally not new. Earlier, I used to be using CodeMitter. Now here again, I'm using CodeMitter, but this time it's a React component which works with CodeMitter. And also I have validations in place, for example, if custom is selected and no value is given, I think it will not allow you to submit. You can see the error messages, highlighting the labels. So it has to be given a value. The other thing, sample YAML sample. Now, if you hit submit, it will succeed. But the other thing is I've also tied the validation of the form with the linter in the CodeMitter. So if there is some error, if there is some error in the YAML syntax, so if there is an error in the YAML syntax, it will not be omitted because the error in the YAML syntax. Essentially, I tried to not as much as I could. There are no errors. Submit. You can see it succeeded. Now I'm just going to delete it the same exact way. It's just sometimes a bit fast, yeah. So yeah, there you go. So like before, so I've tried to bring Meshery functional to the state where it was 2 weeks back with the old UI. Now it's pretty much all functional. So that's the new Meshery. Really let me know. So and like I said, all the things are persisted. So if you go to a different page and try to come back, you will actually be presented with whatever you were working on earlier. So that's pretty much my demo on Meshery. With respect to the code changes, there's quite a bit. I'm still having my changes in my branch. They're not yet merged with the master, which I soon will be merging with the master, because if people are contributing, we don't want them to be contributing to the old UI code. So we probably need them to contribute to the new UI code. So yeah, I've tried to leverage Next.js, which I've already mentioned. So the way the coding is done is the concept of pages in Next.js is all these performance configure play are actually pages. So what they do is they literally load components, which are you can think of them like modules. So they can work on their own. So the pages are lightweight. They just have components that are added to it, and that way, the whole thing works well. That's pretty much what I have for Meshery demo. that also pretty much concludes 10 minutes of my time. Now,
Yeah, good.
yeah,
I
questions, guys.
and it doesn't need to be me to give the feedback. I get to beat up Garish all day. This is somebody else's turn to. Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, come on. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. No, yeah. Oh, yeah. I tend to agree. The fairly clean. There's a few pixels that I would go and pick and prod at, but actually vanilla. When you sit here and think about the sort of the general flow here, that it's still coming together. But when you think about that, and you think about the follow-on issue that will end up being created to do the sort of the pre-flight check, if you will. Do we? I expect maybe would we be able to reuse some of the same protobuf fields that are about to be created for streaming back some of those logs? Can we use that bidirectionally? Or rather, I guess we would create a new action then to call. No, maybe I'm taking this way too far. Is this just a new UI button that we would need to create to invoke the same capability that you just created for Istio events?
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Manu.
I was just saying that we could like have this as an inbuilt function. So as soon as you supply any sort of configuration, Istio vet would run automatically rather than having the user to click. I mean, that's one option. So
Gotcha.
what would happen is, like, you install Istio and you run, like, you install certain configuration, and Istio vet would run in the background and provide you like necessary alerts. So that was my idea. But if you want to have a separate button that would trigger this Istio vet command, then we can do that. Regarding the pre-flight check, I'm not really sure if Istio vet is the right tool, because I think it's more for analyze my cluster and identify issues than to analyze my YAML and figure out issues. Sort of. That's what I get from their documentation. I'm not sure if you can do a pre-flight check using Istio vet.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, that's a good point. That the way that and I don't know, but yeah, maybe the way that the vetters are written is such that they really only are able to perform their check post deployment. I don't know.
Yeah. Frankly, I mean, like, either works. In the sense that, like, to Vinil's point, like, either works. So I think right now your change involves like adding an operation. I saw that, like, so by default, like, once I have, I mean, like, once we have your change merged, it'll automatically show up in this list. We don't have to do anything fancier. Like, the wiring is already in place. So all these operations will be dynamically loaded. So we can actually have, I mean, if we instantaneously merge your PR, like, this UI will immediately show the wet option you had created. I think if not, like, we sure can actually make it run in the background and, like, connect to the Meshery system using gRPC. Because gRPC supports streaming, so we sure can actually leverage that. Now, this is actually based off of Material UI, and Material UI does have a notification icon. I have removed it because when I was working on this, like, the last week, I didn't have much to use that icon for. So otherwise, like, there used to be an icon right next to this user avatar here. So we can bring it back and maybe feed that with the data that's coming from Istio vet. Like, so when people click on it, like, we can actually have like a slider open with with a list of all the messages, like, from Istio vet. Just presenting, like, the array of messages coming from Istio vet. So that is one way of going about it. Or if we have the Istio vet here, and if somebody chooses that as an operation, click submit, like, then still, like, we need to get the data, which I think you already have added support for in the Meshery Istio, but we have to add support for getting that data in Meshery itself and kind of presenting it in a nice way. Now, because that's more of a request response style flow, so we probably should use some decent interface in the UI to actually show the message.
Yeah, I think what you said makes sense. And again, one small idea here is, like, if we do not want to show the history of vet command right in this UI, then we can probably hide that operation from the users, like specifically for this UI, and then have it as a separate operation somewhere else. And what I'm saying is, like, if we want to run istio as a second command after every single operation that we are providing here, then we can just avoid showing it right here.
Makes sense. Okay.
Nice. Okay. Good. We've got a couple of. Well, wow, we're running out of time. A fair bit of this I think can be described in some issues and some a decent, just a couple of paragraphs of a spec or so. I want to make sure that we got time to get over to Pranav and Pravan. Um, Pranav, you want to? Looks like you've got an update there. Looks like you made some progress. We could do a quick
Yeah,
troubleshooting of your issue too, I think.
sure, yeah. So yeah, just a brief update from our end. Pratik and I tried, first of all, tried getting Kubernetes and Docker with Meshery up and running. However, on advice from Girish, we moved to micro-KTS. We deployed that and Istio and Fortio containers as well. We ran into some port configuration problems. However, we were finally able to get the Meshery dashboard up and running, and we could see all the Twitter and all the other links. We also got the book info app up and running. However, for we weren't able to access a couple of the links that we sent as additional steps, and I've mentioned the links on the meeting notes. So one is the product page that Dinesh was accessing in his demo, and we still somehow we aren't able to access that. Yeah, so I mean, currently, yeah, we're. I mean, this was actually a few days back, but due to Pratik's interview and one of my core projects, we haven't gotten a chance to get back to this. However, I will be working on this over the weekend, and I'll probably bring Dinesh for help regarding the same. So yeah, currently just trying to access those sites and like get some data from the adapters.
Awesome. I'm mostly available. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and then that's good, great progress. By the way, in advance of that, you may have seen this already, Pranav. I'm not sure. There's basically an intro to using Istio, a workshop that Girish and I had given a few times over this year.
Okay.
A great resource for just it doesn't talk about Meshery, but that's fine. Like, just a great resource for getting up to speed on Istio itself and your initial deployment. In there, the Lab 4, it talks about how to expose the book info site, which might be the point where you're getting stuck. It might be a port forwarding that you need to do, or an exposure.
Yeah, I can see a CNCF video on YouTube by you and Girish. I
Oh,
can see like labs. Oh, maybe.
oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, we'll send over the lab, the link.
Okay.
It's only.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Girish, it's been a while since I've looked. This is great. 43 forks. Not. Boy, if only Meshery were that popular, Avino, then we'd be doing good.
We'll get like really irresistible soul.
uh, but very good, Pranav. I'll make sure that you've got that link because I think it sounds like you've done all the hard parts already. I think you're basically there.
Yeah, I think last week, like when Pratik reached out, one was a port config. I also told him like how to change the port for Meshery. And
Yes.
the last bit was that I think they had challenge accessing the service that were deployed in the micro KS environment. So
Yeah,
um,
we figured out, yeah, with help from you, we had figured out the port thing, but yeah, we are having trouble accessing the service, actually.
gotcha. Don't worry. Like I mean,
Okay.
we should be able to get past that pretty quickly.
Okay. Well,
Awesome.
And then Pavan, I know you torn through some initial Terraform, and we looked at that last time.
Oh well, like I didn't get much time to work on that. My apologies, but like definitely like the things are like going well so far. Like I just did the VPC configuration in Terraform and test the EC2 instance, and like it's working fine. Or I just started creating only VPC using Terraform, and like it's working. And
Nice.
like I need to connect EC2 instance to the API gateway and still have to work on that. Definitely, I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. And coming back to the Kubernetes metric server, I installed the metric server and like testing of the pods and CPU usage, and like it's working fine. But still, I need to get more information from Girish, like what need to be done, and like what the expectations, so that like I can work more on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Pawan, actually, two things. One is, yes, feel free to reach out to me on Slack. We can actually have a chat or maybe even a call to actually, talk about the specifics. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we should start, getting your Terraform into the Git repo. I would say, again, let's chat about it, in Slack, and probably, start getting your changes into the appropriate repo so that
Yeah, sure, definitely I will do that.
uh, awesome. Yeah, so essentially, overall, let's catch up on Slack, and take it from there.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Wow, amazing. We hit 3 p.m. Well, 3 p.m. Central, that is, on time. Vanille, I hope I did. I was trying to take verbose notes here. You may want to take a look to clean up what I'd written because you might have captured it more elegantly. I think to recap real quickly, I think we come out with potentially a couple of changes that you might want to do in the existing PR based on adding a couple of new fields. But beyond that, I think we might end up with maybe 3 additional issues, or one that describes all 3 of these things.
Um, yeah, I think I'll work with Girish to identify the issues.
Okay.
So I see that. So if you see, I've added the to-do list there. It has 3 sub elements. So the first thing I would update on the PR is to use the dynamic Kubernetes client instead of the client set, and yeah, that should solve the first problem. And the other problem is to make it more structured. So if I do both of those, then I think the PR is ready to be merged. And the part where we want the asynchronous action on the we taken separately.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, very good. Okay. Um, yeah, Garish, merge.
Yeah,
There.
absolutely.
um, some of us will be able to jump in. Okay. Well, Pranav, I think same of the issues that we described just now, guys. Certainly, Pranav, I should raise my hand as well, and can assist you with your access issues around book info. I'm, same deal. I'm generally available from now through Monday or what have you. All right, I think as we go to wrap up this community meeting, I'm going to give a final warning to Vanille this go round. Vanille, I may call you out on Twitter for this first big PR. I may have to make a big deal about it.
Cool.
And then Vanilla. Oh, actually, one thing that we didn't follow up on is I'm going to follow up with the CNCF on the Google Summer of Code with respect to the description of the projects that we've got there and how to make sure that those are accounted for in the much longer list of all of the CNCF proposals. So we'll follow up there too. We may have some other folks joining us that way.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Nice. All right, Pranav, give Pratik our best, man. You give him, make sure you call him out. Harass him. Okay, thanks guys. Same time next week.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
So much.
thanks.
So much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
See you next week. Bye bye.
See you
Bye,
guys.
bye.